Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, on to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive then. Former Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramaniam says RBI should do an asset quality review of the NBFCs as well. Speaking to Lata Venkatesh, he also talks about PCA norms, RBI board and IBC norms. Here's a slice of that conversation.
We've discovered with the IBC that still the deadlines have slipped, right? Only 3 or 4 cases have gotten done, and even those have been in the steel sector. So, and there's a huge overload coming, right? And then there's power, which is sui generis, which I say in the book should be treated as sui generis. And then there's the new NBFC problem, right? Now, so I have a new idea which I want to put on the table, remember that Raghu's asset quality review had a very salutary impact in pushing this, right? Because there was a number, there was a big number. We all knew there was a problem. So I'm wondering whether we should not have a similar AQR type thing for the NBFCs, because again, this is one of those situations where everyone knows kind of things, but no one is willing to be explicit about it. And so the not being explicit maybe, demobilizes action. So I'm wondering whether, we should have something like that, put the thing on the table and then generate the political momentum for that as well.
You're almost saying that power should be given a forbearance for now, out of the February 12th circular? See,
I think forbearance would be, I think, one way of characterizing it. I don't see it as forbearance or not forbearance. I have, the reason I say power should be different is for a completely different set of reasons, more analytical and conceptual, right? One, these are very good assets, they are, so to liquidate them seems like, a real tragedy. On the other hand, we also know that if you put them for bidding, they will probably command a very low price. So they you can neither sell them nor liquidate them, whatever. And I think that a lot of the power thing also has to do with government policy, center, states, banks, whatever, right? So it seems to me that the size is huge. A lot of policy preconditions are required. And so, the straitjacket of the IBC might not suit that. So I don't think it's a question of forbearance or delay or whatever, but just, it seems like a different beast altogether which requires treatment.
When the Reserve Bank showed that resolve and said that we are going to get, all that is not resolved in 6 months to the NCLT, look at the pushback. That is at the heart of the, government RBI standoff at the moment. The words I hear in the corridors of North Block is, yes, we wanted a cleanup. We didn't want an irrational cleanup. So, this is the problem that the regulator faces. When they, looking back, you say they didn't do enough. But when they are doing, they are irrational. Do you think that it is irrational at all? Wasn't it needed?
So I think that certainly lots of things that the RBI is trying to do, I think are really welcome. I think they should. For example, just to give you one example, on the prompt corrective action framework, right? You see, just by way of background, we all know there's an election calendar, right? We can't ignore that. This is politics, right? And therefore, whatever. But I think what I would like people to step back and view this as, look, if this were a 1-year problem or a 2-year problem, maybe we say let's tide it over till, till appropriate circumstances arise and we, address it again. But this is kind of 8-9 years, as I say, right? It's a long time. So, the more you procrastinate on this, the more it seems to me that not only the chances get worse, but the problem actually accumulates. So that's why I think that.
So do the PCA, stick with it.
I would on this, say that, because in my, in my 4 R's, the reform, right? One is what you do with the, the medium to good banks. I think some of them need to be privatized, right, at some point, right? But what do you do with the unviable ones, right? And really, the PCA is really, Governor, why we read these original thing, right? You basically shrink that. Now, I think that unless we do that, we don't get a banking system that looks efficient, like 4 or 5 reasonably big sized banks. And I think we have to find a way for those unviable banks.
You're not getting the political push.
Yeah. And I think we should kind of pursue that. Because that's part of the reform solution. I think because consolidation is not, I think, a viable alternative. We know that. I mean,
you can't, weak plus weak gives weak.
Yeah, weak plus strong maybe also, weakens the strong. So I think that I would very much favor, the PCA framework remaining and being strengthened. And I think the RBI has done a very good job on that. Just to add to that, I heard, for example, someone saying that, we must grow our way out of the PCA problem, right? It struck me that it was the imprudent lending that got us into this in the first place. So if you lend more, I think lending more, if you had better governance, better incentive structure, you can be more confident. But if this is going to be a repeat of the past, then I do worry about that.
Well, time to slip into a short break. Up next, Vijay Mallya's extradition hearing today in Westminster Court. We'll tell you what is expected on the other side.